Dana Denha here, and this is Let's Watch with the Ann Arbor Film Festival. March brings the arts to screens and gallery spaces in A2 thanks to the hard work and dedication of the Ann Arbor Film Festival. The town becomes a destination for creatives from all over the world to share their insights and thoughts on arts and be inspired by others. Joining me is Rory Scott, an interdisciplinary artist that explores the frailty of life and the rhythms and patterns of being human, with work that will bend reality off the screen at the 63rd Annual Ann Arbor Film Festival. Welcome, Rory.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your background, maybe where you grew up, and how you sort of got to where you are today?
Okay, so I've always enjoyed creating. Like, that's just been something that's been a part of my life since I can remember during childhood, like up through adulthood, to a point where I realized that I needed to make a path for myself to be able to create the kind of work that I really wanted to produce. And, it's just been one of those things where it's been a very organic path, creating from childhood, going to school, eventually getting to art in college, and then getting to a creative profession. And then ultimately, deciding that I want to pursue art on my own. And I started with animation and then started getting into mixed reality. And that's where I'm at right now.
Can you tell us about that Kresge Fellowship and the work that do you create work specifically for that? How does that happen?
So I applied for the fellowship a few years ago and I submitted basically my body of work that basically is like, a culmination of my animation, my 3D work, my mixed reality work. So it's just like a hodgepodge of like everything that I'm working on. And it was a intense process of getting everything together, but it was really worth it. I'm so grateful that it all like came together and it's been a really wonderful experience.
Well, when I was doing some research into you, one of the themes that you see a lot of is this impermanence,
Mhm.
and this idea started to come about because something that happened with your mother.
Well, it actually came about, I would say like about a decade ago, well, more than a decade ago, but like when I became a mom, I had this like real flashback through time and thinking about, myself as a child and like, my parents, my grandparents, and starting to think about like all these different things that felt permanent at one point, but were like suddenly like, fading into the background, and I was having a difficult time parsing that. And I was just going through, I guess, the mourning process before the mourning actually needed to take place. And I started thinking about my own impermanence, the impermanence of, humanity, and thinking about how we exist and how technology was becoming like even more dominant in our lives at that point, and recognizing that there would be this eventual point where like, there's nothing you can really recognize anymore. Everything kind of like changes, morphs, or fades away. So that's like really where it really came from.
I think it's interesting to think about this idea of impermanence where like even just like the simplest little thing like you never know when the last time your parents are going to put you to bed or like you know what I mean or like the last time you can carry your baby and like like stuff like that that you don't really think about until it's then gone.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That is like something I think about all the time, these last moments and not recognizing it. And, I don't know, for me, that has made me be more precious about things that I guess would be considered more mundane or ordinary, because things are fleeting and it's like you do have to appreciate even the smallest of things.
Yeah, and this idea of motherhood or becoming a parent and how it really does change your reality in so many ways. I don't think that it's something that you can fully understand until you become a parent yourself.
Hmm. It's so true. Yeah, I mean, like it just gives you this perspective, not only of who you once were, but also of how much someone can learn and change over a short amount of time. And it has made me feel like, okay, if a child can go from basically doing nothing to like running around, like in 2 years, like what can you do with your life in 2 years? How can you make each moment count and try to, also have some sort of accelerated growth as well? So I've always been obsessed with time, and yeah, the older you get, the faster time moves just because of like the ratio of time, And I think that in some ways, as an adult, you can let yourself be not overwhelmed, but like somehow like burdened by that, seeing time just fly by based upon due dates, bills, whatever sort of cycles you're on. But it's empowering when you see a small person just completely change and shift because it shows you that that potential is still in you. Maybe no one's telling you that. Maybe you don't recognize it in yourself, but if you focus and you commit, you can have those same leaps too. And I think that's like super profound, especially like for humanity and especially where we're at now, because I feel like watching technology and everything, we have this ability to make a huge evolutionary leap right now if we just focus and commit to it. And it could be 2 years and a complete change could happen if we all really believed it.
It makes me think of like this idea of like you really should listen to your elders because they understand things that you don't understand when you're younger. So, for instance, like my 8-year-old will be like, I can't wait until this time. I want to do this on this date, and it'll be like a month from now or something. And I'm like, enjoy the days that you have because every day is great. Every day can
Hmm.
be something great. It doesn't have to be that one date where we're going somewhere and doing this one fun thing. Every day could be something amazing if you really just didn't worry about what the future is.
Exactly. I have an 8-year-old too, so like, yeah, I know. It's like, no, just focus on like where we're at right now. I know something cool is coming up, but yeah, it's just like just be present here and now because there's like, you know, a lot of life is waiting for something. So
And you
don't
never
just like
know when like that amazing day is going to pop up. Like all of a sudden you're like,
exactly.
wow, today was just really great for no reason. Like it wasn't anything that was planned. It just ended up being great.
Yeah, it just flowed, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Totally. Yeah.
You talk about this like script of life, like in your art from like being a baby in school and marriage, and then what? Can you
Hmm.
talk about that?
Yeah, like I think that like, I'm always thinking about things, always have, and always kind of like, I don't know, probably have lived a little bit outside the script to begin with. And I felt this period in my life after I became a mom where I did feel like, okay, now what? I've done all the things that like society has expected of me, right? And now like it's either I just dig my heels in and just kind of like continue plodding along, or I actually start making some decisions and goals of my own that I would like to achieve. And what does that look like? And a lot of it looks like you basically having to cheerlead yourself and just believe in something because there's not going to be anyone else there telling you, yeah, you should go for this. And of course, you're going to be able to succeed at it, And I think that's a huge thing about becoming an adult. You have to, like, in a sense, become your parent at some point and tell yourself what to go for.
Yeah, like to always strive to have more goals and not
Yep.
just settle for like, okay, well now I'm the mom and
Yep.
that's my job. I'm the mom now. But it's like that is a big job. It's a huge job. But I
Oh, yeah.
think also like to be healthy and feel like in a healthy space in your head, you do have to have those goals for yourself because if you're only living for the little people, then what's that life for them? They need to know that they need to live for themselves too.
Exactly. And I think that, like, I'm a big like for me, I love it when I see people who are growing as they grow older. I love it when I see someone who's like 90 and they just ran a marathon or something. And I feel like every moment you're on the planet, there's something that you can do, something you can achieve. And I want people to feel like there's always something to go for and to hope for and to strive to become.
Can you talk about nostalgia? And nostalgia is huge right now, all over the place. I mean, it's like you walk down the street and you're like, I used to wear those Jinkos, like it's
Yes.
we're like now becoming like the older generation where like when we were in high school, we might have wore bell bottoms and stuff, and
Hmm.
now the high school kids are wearing the Jinkos.
Yep,
But
exactly.
like you also like nostalgia means a lot to you in your work.
Hmm. Well, nostalgia's a weird thing to me. I like, for me, like, I started in a place where I was thinking, like, It's very comforting. It's something reminding you maybe even of who you truly are because it's what you really connected with in the first place. But then I had this weird realization that in some bizarre way, nostalgia, when you talk about like fashion or like music and we all kind of bond over, it's like this societal form of like mourning. Like we're all mourning something that we've like lost together in some way, in this fun way, right? And yeah, it's kind of peculiar because it's comforting, but it also keeps us in a perpetual cycle of rehashing, reliving, and mourning things. So it's very complicated.
Oh, totally. And also it's like exciting in a way too. So like when fashion started coming back, I was like, "Oh, so I can start dressing like this again?" Like, you know what I mean? Like there's that aspect of it too, where like I remember this and I loved it and now it's back again and so it makes me happy. And also patterns, and you were sort of discussing nostalgia in a way that it is a pattern, but like
Oh yeah.
patterns are a big part of the role you play in your art is like using these patterns to depict it, and also almost taking the mundane. Like I watched that video where you were on a run and then you sort of abstracted the landscape. So talk about that idea of patterns and how they really are just a huge part of the li our lives.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with patterns, visually. Like I've always loved optical illusions. I'm obsessed with patterns in terms of thinking about like sacred geometry. I like when you close your eyes, you can like start to see patterns. I'm obsessed with thinking about patterns over time. I believe that everything is a pattern, like even chaos. If you pull back enough, you're going to start to see some patterns. And I just feel like the sauce of everything is in the patterns. We think about frequencies, it's nothing but patterns, and it's what dictates our lives. And I think that when you start to recognize that, you start to think about your own patterns and how you can tweak them and how you can interrupt them, create new ones. And if you're able to do that consistently, you're able to generate something completely different, a new form for yourself. And I think that for me, my obsession with that really goes back to also thinking about how we can all improve ourselves and our lives. And it's just one little tiny mark. There's nothing better to me than like, someone who takes like one like simple shape, repeats it over and over till it becomes this like colossal, like, how did they do this? Like something so small can have so much meaning and magnitude. And that's what I'm really focusing on with my art.
You also, I mean, from the work I've seen, you narrate your art in a way that it's really poetic, but it also like feels almost conversational in a way.
Yeah. Now, I like to like for me like I love found sound. I record things in my environment. I record myself just talking off the top of my head. So whenever I do my narrations, it's like me going on a walk and it's just like basically a stream of consciousness. And yeah, I'm always having this dialogue with myself in my head, and that's where that comes from.
Can you talk about that vulnerability and I mean, like, it's not always easy to be vulnerable to people that you don't even know. I mean, you have no
Yeah.
idea who's going to see or experience the things that you create.
Mhm. Well, I mean, like I try to make sure that is something that I'm comfortable with, but I do also feel like there's this whole idea of like authenticity, and I think that there's this forceful, egotistical sort of authenticity, like I'm gonna like put something on or not put something on and like be like make a bold statement, right? That's fine. But for me, like real authenticity is when you do something not to like basically put yourself out there in a way that shows like how tough you are, how whatever you are. It's more about like trying to really connect, And what I'm always trying to do is like connect on a deeper level with people in a way that I'm not able to in my typical life, And I'm the person who wants to walk up to everyone and be like, "Were you really thinking about reality? What, And you can't
Yeah.
do that. So like, so that's kind of like where my narrations come in, is letting this part of me that I wish I could let out all the time with everyone, but I really can't. So I put that there.
Well, let's watch 13, which encompasses a lot of Rory's work, and we'll be back and talk about it in a minute. We're back with Rory Scott. You just showed us a video that shows a lot of your work. Can you tell us a little bit about what we saw and then we'll parlay that into what we'll experience at this year's Ann Arbor Film Festival?
Sure. So the work that you have just watched basically starts with my work at the very beginning of Impermanence. It moves very fast through some dioramas that I initially created. I wanted to create worlds when I first began, and so I started creating them by hand. And then, as we move through, you start to see my process with creating animations and getting into creating more virtual spaces and more VR, and ultimately moving into mixed reality and AR and my AR fashions and AR environments that people can actually go into and inhabit. And right now, I am working on these meditation masks. So taking the AR and making it something that people are actually able to use in their lives, hopefully to, I guess, have more vulnerability in a digital setting.
Well, it's interesting because you're hearing more and more about VR and AR and like how it's actually almost like it can be used medically for like psychology and like stuff like that. I think it's really new still, but it's an interesting field to kind of go into and explore because it is sort of new. I haven't done a ton of it. I actually will tell you this little story that I went on this VR monster truck thing at like this thing, and it made me so sick I wanted to die. I was like,
Yeah, motion sickness. Yeah.
yeah. And it's crazy to think how like you literally have to like lift the glasses to feel
Yeah.
like you are a real person again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whenever I work in VR, like it's like weird, like going back to reality, like take off the headset. But yeah, I mean, like for me, it's such an exciting field because there are so many different applications. Everything from education, art, medicine. I mean, I think that it's going to touch every single area of our life once it is economically feasible to do so. I think that the barrier is right now, it just isn't economically feasible so much. And, I think that is also a good thing because I don't think that we should necessarily adopt new realities without thinking about them and finding good uses for them first, especially one where we're actually creating a whole new layer of reality. We know how we're addicted to our phones and social media. Like, what's going to happen when we're all wearing smart glasses or something, Like, I don't know if humanity's exactly ready for that at this moment.
I would agree. I think like some stuff like don't do it in haste, like all this
Yeah.
AI stuff that you hear more and more
Mhm.
about. And it's like in some ways it's scary to think about these things if they're not studied enough and used in a proper way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, I think that we really need to, like I said, evolve, before we're really ready for a lot of this stuff. And I'm hoping that we do, because I think that if we do, we have a really wonderful opportunity to have an incredible future ahead where, like, yeah, everything is much easier and hopefully a lot more equitable than it is now.
So you actually have an off-the-screen experience, I will call it, during the Ann Arbor Film Festival. It's Space 2435, which I believe is like somewhere on the University of Michigan campus, maybe off of State Street. Not 100, but they can look into that. But tell me about the work that will be there because that's sort of a VR experience, right?
Yeah, so I'll be having either the meditation mask there or one of my virtual environments. I don't know which one it will be just yet. But if it's one of the masks, it's a mask that people can try out where they're like in this virtual space and is something where, you're able to share with your friends and be able to like, just have fun with yourself and others. And for the environment, it'll be something where you can walk into the space and be able to look around and feel like you're actually a part of an experience. So,
Talk about creating work and then bringing it to the Ann Arbor Film Festival, which is like the biggest mind-bending film festival and longest running
I know it's
film
crazy.
festival for experimental. But it's like I was talking about with some of my previous guests, it's so much more than that because you
Mhm.
do get these experiences like what you're providing.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Like, I hope that, people are, enjoy the film, of course, but like really enjoy the AR component of it because I feel like a lot of people don't get to have that sort of experience daily. And when they do, it's usually more of like a gamification or something that's like a humor filter or something. But this is just strictly for fun, strictly artistically based. And so I hope that is something that, piques people's interest and something that they really enjoy.
Well, we're just about out of time. Why don't you tell people why they should support the Ann Arbor Film Festival, filmmaker, artist, or anyone?
Well, I think it's always great to like support the arts. I think that it's wonderful to hear so many diverse perspectives and to be able just to see things in a different way and to, I don't know, get out and get together in community and to like share something that you don't ordinarily get to share. So,
I
yeah, I hope,
totally agree.
yeah, I hope everyone enjoys it.
Thank you so much, Rory, for being on the show. I love talking to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
To watch this and other CTN series, visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor and remember to like, subscribe, and share. I'm Dana Denha for Let's Watch with the Ann Arbor Film Festival.